guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a top 10 today. Today it's a music top 10 and we're revisiting one of my favourite bands, definitely in my top 5 favourite bands of all time. We're looking at Japan. Obviously my favourite artist is David Sylvian, and David Sylvian is a member of Japan, and I absolutely adore the band. I grew up with the band. I remember going to buy my first record by Japan. I saw them years before they sort of became popular. I went with family members to see a band called the Blue Oyster Cult at Hammersmith in London. This was in the 70s, and Japan was supporting them, but they were a different band then. They were a very sort of not post-punk, but a little bit of a glam rock feel to them, mixed with a bit. You could see the influences of like Bowie and maybe a bit of Roxy Music, which seemed to came out a bit later in the sort of 79 period in their career. You could hear the influences of Roxy Music in their music, but they had that sort of feel about them. And I didn't like Blue Oyster Cult. I thought they were awful, but I didn't really like Japan either. I thought, oh, this is not my sort of music, because at this time I was listening to Bowie, I was listening to a bit of Lou Reed, I was starting to get into post-punk around this time, you know. It was around that sort of period of life, you know, and there were sort of artists that I appreciate, like Dr. Feelgood. I was listening to that kind of music. So I was looking for that faster edge, but I preferred Japan over the Blue Oyster Cult. Anyway, I thought they sort of had some remnants that I did like, and I didn't really sort of follow on from them or anything like that. And then years later, when I started to buy records in my local Boots, in their sort of nice price section, which was like a shelf, and they would have all these cheaper albums that were on like the Fame label and stuff like this, and they had Quiet Life by Japan in there, and I remember buying it because I remember sort of thinking, well, you know, I wonder if they're better on record. I didn't know that at this point, you know, this is around about 1979, sort of 80, that sort of period. I didn't know they changed their sound at this point, and I brought it, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, and I really loved it. So when I had more money, I went back and bought the other two albums, Obscure Alternatives and Adolescent Sex, and they were completely different to Quiet Life. And I thought, now this sounds like the Japan I remember. But there again, there were some moments on those albums I really, really liked, and I just thought, wow, these are really, really cool. And I just thought, wow, absolutely amazing. And as the other albums come out, Ensemblage, Gentleman Takes Polaroids, Tin Drum, I brought them. Exercising Ghosts, Oil on Canvas. Oil on Canvas is a special album to me because it was from their, I'm sure the tour was called Sons of Pioneers, and that was I've only saw Japan twice. I saw them supporting Blue Oyster Cult, and then I saw them on that tour, which was, they called it Sons of Pioneers, but it was a part of the Tin Drum sort of album tour. And they played at Hammersmith Odeon, and I went to see them there with one of my friends, Trevor. We went to see them. I wasn't to know that it was the last time here in the UK we get to see them. I think they went off maybe to Europe and then out to like Japan and that, and played out there, and they would end up being the last shows that they did as a band, because within sort of 12 months they'd all gone their separate ways. And then we started to get solo albums from Mick Karn and David Sylvian, and so that's how things sort of started. But today we're looking at Japan. We're looking at my favourite songs of Japan. It's quite difficult to do actually, because they do ultimately change now and again, you know, from in the top 10, or a new song that sort of comes to me throughout listening to it over and over, and I think, yeah, do you know what, I love this. And some things grow on you with time, and some songs grow out of you in time, you know, and I find that happens quite a lot with a lot of bands. But these are my top 10, and I thought about it for a while, and I just thought these are the songs that have always stuck by me since beginning, that when I've appreciated their career, just sort of like now, and I still appreciate these songs now. So these are my top 10 favourite songs from Japan. Not albums, but songs. They haven't done 10 albums, so I can't do that. So, number 10 is from, it's still my favourite Japan album, Gentleman's Take Polaroids, and I'm going to go with Night Porter in at number 10, which is a slow sort of ballady song, mostly played out on piano and Richard synthesizers in the background. This actual release of does have the lyrics there of Night Porter, but yeah, that was a fantastic song. It was a real chill out song I used to go to quite a lot to listen to when I used to relax, like on like a Saturday morning. My mum and dad would be out, they'd go and do the weekly shop, and I'd be at home, and I would put it on the hi-fi. I'd put it on loud, go on the bed, and I'd just sit and listen to Gentleman Takes Polaroids. And when Night Porter used to come on, I used to shut my eyes and just and it just sort of used to blow me away. And I just thought it was an amazing track. Really cool. So that is my number 10. Number 9 is also from Gentleman Takes Polaroids, and it's Methods of Dance. It's one of those songs that at the time it didn't appeal to me as much, because I think it was a bit up tempo. I always found Japan's music to be more beautiful and elegant and in its own style. This one had a bit of feel to it that fitted in with a lot of the new romantic and new wave sort of sound, and although it still had their signature sort of like keyboard work from Richard, it still sort of fitted in. And Mick's bass playing is phenomenal on Methods of Dance. But over the years, I've grown to love that song so much. The when you break down every sort of instrument and listen to it carefully, you just think, wow, how technically perfect these have been put together. And they just fit so well together, and it just sounds phenomenal. The more I've listened to it, the more I love that track. So number 9 is Methods of Dance. Right, number 8, we're going to a compilation album called Ensemblage, which was, I believe Hansa released this on the back of Japan's success. I think Japan was starting to get successful because first they were with Hansa Records, and the records weren't selling, they weren't doing anything, so they got dropped, and they managed to pick up a contract with Richard Branson's Virgin, because I think they had other companies interested, but Virgin were more letting them be musicians and letting them follow their way. I think they were quite happy to do that, because at that time Virgin were a really cool label. They actually gave the bands the freedom to sort of like release stuff that they actually want to do, and that I think attracted David and the lads to do. But they were getting some success, and they wanted to not maybe cash in on that, but maybe bring this out to remember there is a back catalogue of Japan before these hit songs. And it's an album of 2 halves. The first half covers adolescent sex and obscure alternatives, and the second half concentrates on the singles that they released from Quiet Life and non-album singles, and one of them is on here, and that is Life in Tokyo. Is my number 8. It's just a really cool track. It's a very synth heavy sort of track. I was going to pick Quiet Life, but I didn't want to just go with ones that were when I think Quiet Life, the song itself, and Life in Tokyo were most really influential on the new wave scene. I really do think that when you listen to, I think when you listen to Duran Duran's Planet Earth, you think, that's Quiet Life. It's exactly the same. They pretty much copied Quiet Life. Yes, they did, because Quiet Life was 1979. So this is where Japan, I think, were one of those bands that sort of pioneered that sound and image. Because I say at that stage when Japan sort of were moving away from their early roots to more electronic roots, they changed their image as well. to a very bright. I mean, David was a very Brian Ferry looking image, um, but there again, so that they did look a bit Roxy Music in places. You just thinking, wow, you know, but it suited the music. It just suited them, and it worked, and it absolutely worked. And the band obviously have had a sort of stormy um, career, but not just down to the band members not necessarily agreeing on the way the band should go, but also I think management. They've had like three or four different managers, you know, and producers of their records. You know, we had John Punter, didn't we? And then they had Steve Nile. So the music sort of changed as they progressed. And I think when they got hold of Steve Nye, I think that's when they discovered what they wanted to do. I think David's songwriting and Steve's skill were on the same level of thinking, and I think that's what made it sort of work. But they made some incredible songs. Life in Tokyo was a single on its own, sort of thing, like European Sun. I think these, I don't know if they came out before Quiet Life, but it's around that period. So we're looking at 79 still, and they're just finding their new sound. I would gather the two singles would have come out first, and then they did Quiet Life and the Quiet Life album. And being cool, they didn't put European Sun and Life in Tokyo on Quiet Life. They just put the actual track Quiet Life on there. But it's a great song. It's really upbeat and quite up tempo. There's a bit of satire going on in there. I find the lyrics quite funny. I enjoyed the song. I think it's really cool. So my 8th favourite song is Life in Tokyo. But we're sticking at 79 with a track from Quiet Life, from my 7th favourite song. And it's a track called In Vogue, which I absolutely love. Again, it's one of those songs that it's a grower, you know, over time. It's at that time it was, I know it's going to sound bad, but it felt like an album track, not necessarily a filler, but just like an album track. Didn't stand out. It didn't have anything that I really sort of like wanted to go back in, sort of like indulge in, if you will. But over the years, I've indulged in it, and I've discovered, hang on a minute, this is incredible. This is songwriting at its best. It's absolutely wonderful, wonderful track. The keyboards are fantastic on there. I think they're the standout. Of course, David's voice is phenomenal. His voice has changed at this point. He was getting more more croony. Definitely a sort of crooner, sort of Frank Sinatra sort of, not in sound, but in style, was coming through in his, like Brian Ferry. He was almost like a crooner too. I think you can, when you listen to David, you can see he's got his influences on his sleeves at this stage. I think in his later part, when he went solo, I think that's when he came into his own and established himself as, yeah, this is David Sylvian, he's his own style. But at this time, you could hear the influences that they were wearing on their sleeves. Roxy Music, Sparks, dare I say, and obviously some of the sort of American New York sort of punk was also relevant in this sort of stage. But this was an amazing song, really, really cool, from the incredible Quiet Life album. In Vogue is my 7th favourite song. Number 6, we're going to a B-side, which is represented on Gentleman Takes Polaroids, and it's called the Experience of Swimming, which is an instrumental, but it's phenomenal. It's one of those tracks that sort of slowly sort of builds, and you can feel, you can drift in it. If you think about something almost magical, you can be there and have that music playing like your soundtrack to your dream, to your memory. Because when I'm thinking of something, when I listen to that track, I tend to drift away a bit into some sort of like whatever I'm thinking about at the time. It could be just waiting outside at night time, waiting for the bus in the rain, you know, and having this song playing, it would fit. If you're traveling on a train in the summer, beautiful summer day with beautiful views, this song would fit with your music playing. It's just like that. It's a soundtrack sort of track, and it's just phenomenal. And again, it's a song over years that have grown on me. I think one of the greatest things about Japan that a lot of bands didn't do, and a lot of things get missed about this band, the B-sides. They were as good as the A, if not sometimes better. I remember the Cantonese Boy single, the double 7-inch single. I preferred all the other 3 songs over Cantonese Boy. Not that Cantonese Boy is not a good track, but I just preferred those songs. I just think, wow, that's really, really cool. And they tended to take sometimes tracks from an earlier album and place it on a B-side, which I quite like too, because it made you, oh, this is taken from this album, or it's taken from that. And you just think, wow, that's a great idea. Because, I mean, like, Taking Islands in Africa was a B-side, and, you know, that they were quite happy to do that. I mean, I remember Ghost having a live version of The Art of Parties. I don't know if I've still got my Ghost 12-inch. Give me a minute, guys. Let me have a look. I still might have the 12-inch up here. Let me have a quick look. Probably haven't. As you can see, I'm so disorganised, as always. Gary Newman. Here we go. Oh, God, it looks so tatty now, guys. But yeah, here's... no, that's Ensemblage. That's my album. Released on Hansa International. I'm sure I've got the 12-inch here of Quiet Life. Give me a minute, because I just want to double check the B-side. I wonder if I've left that downstairs. Yeah, I can't put my hand on it. It's irritating. Yeah, it's going to be downstairs somewhere. So we just check one more time. Let's play Dead, Gary Newman, Mark and the Mambas. No, it must be downstairs. So, yeah, no, but I've found my Ensemblage album. Which, look at the coloration of this now. Oh, God. I don't know what edition this is, but it's still in really good condition. My vinyl just needs a bit of a clean. Of Ensemblage. I've kept some of my Japan vinyl. I lost most of it, unfortunately. But yeah, but that's what I was saying. I liked about Japan is that they were quite happy to put album tracks on B-sides, which, in a way, is quite good. It's a good advert, and also it's cost effective for the company sending the band back in to record another track. Maybe if they've got songs left over from album recordings, B-sides, but if they haven't, then maybe stick another track on there. But yes, the experience of swimming is fantastic, and it is available on the Gentleman Takes Polaroids remaster CD. Really cool. So are we down to my tech top 5? Oh, whoops, we're back. No, we're not. We're going to a live album for the next one, and it's from Oil on Canvas, and I'm cheating because I'm putting 2 songs together. I'm putting Gentleman Takes Polaroids and Swing in at number 5. They are 2 separate songs, but on the live album, they sort of run into each other, and it works. It works so well, and I'm just thinking, why didn't you do it on this album? Because on the album, it does play Gentleman Takes Polaroids and then Swing, but they don't run into each other. There's a gap between songs, but on here, the songs run into each other. Oh, it's phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. I still say, though, just going back a little bit to Gentleman Takes Polaroids, Side A is the best 20 minutes of Japan's career. My humble opinion, that's all. It's phenomenal. Yes, so this is from the live concert that I went to at Hammersmith. Wrong way around, Joe. This is the concert of it, and they did Gentleman Takes Polaroids Swing, and the tracks run into each other. So it is like a bit like a sort of 12-minute adventure, if you like, and it just works so well. And together they were just phenomenal. But both tracks are brilliant. Both stand out on their own, but together, It's perfection. Absolutely amazing. So my number 5, although I'm cheating, is Gentleman Takes Polaroids stroke Swing live from Oil on Canvas. Right, number 4. We're going back to Quiet Life and we're going to the track Alien. I love that song. It's just, to me, it's one of my favourite live songs of theirs. I have a number of sort of like, not bootlegs, but not official release sort of like radio broadcasts. I have about 3 of them, and they perform Alien on those, and I love those versions of Alien. And when I saw them on Sons of Pioneers tour, they did do Alien, but it's not on the album. And I really liked that track. It's really, really cool. It was like a slow start song, and then it built up and then took off, and I just loved it. It did have a bit of a Roxy feel to it, but I really enjoyed the song Alien. I think David's vocals and mixed bass on that are the standout. It's just absolutely wonderful, wonderful track. So number 4 is Alien from Quiet Life. And you're thinking, I take it, Geoff, you don't like tin drum. I do, because I've got a tin drum track in at number 3. Tin drum, the classic album, which a lot of people regard as their best album, and a lot of people regard this as an art rock masterpiece. I agree, it's phenomenal. Excellent album. And number 3, and the track I'm choosing off this album is The Art of Parties. Really, really cool track. It was a single. It was an alternative track for them. It was almost not gothic, not goth-like, but it was a lot more guitar based than what they'd done for a number of years. Because a lot of, like I said, Gentleman Takes Polaroids is very synth heavy, and a lot of tin drum is very world music, dare I say it. It's more experimenting around the world music, where they use a lot of traditional instruments on there, and including things like xylophones and Far Eastern instruments are sort of sounds on there, probably all played through synthesizer. But I know that Mick Karn plays saxophone and other instruments, so there is other instruments throughout the album, and so they experimented a lot more on this album. But this was a lot more alternative to a lot of their tracks, if you know what I mean. It would have fit really well on an alternative, on a goth night, if you like, on the disco, whatever. They could play The Art of Parties and people would get up to it. It was a bit darker, but very, very cool, but still very, very Japan. Standouts on that to me are definitely the guitar work and the bass. It's absolutely phenomenal. Really cool track. And that is my 3rd favourite Japan track, The Art of Parties. So number 2, we're sticking with this album, and it has to be Ghosts. It was the first sort of time I really thought this band are phenomenal. You know, I've had their albums and I bought their earlier stuff and that, but when I saw them on Top of the Pops performing Ghosts, and I also saw David doing it live acoustically on some TV show years ago at the same sort of time, and I just thought they're just phenomenal. There is no one like them. Yes, I love Gary Newman. Yes, I love Talk Talk. I enjoy Ultravox. I enjoy Tears for Fears. But there's nobody like Japan. They just stood above everyone else. They were just like an old friend. You know, when I sat and listened to them, I felt home. I just felt this is the music I was meant to listen to. I was born to listen to this music. That sounds stupid, but I was meant to listen to this, and because I related to it. I related to it all. You could hear in David's voice. I think David's voice is the standout in this song, and maybe some of Stevens' percussion. On the album version, you do have it does break out a couple of times into saxophone sort of solos from Mick, which is great because the single version didn't, and the album version did. The single version is available in this set on this single, which has The Art of Parties and Ghosts. I think the single versions are on this. I'm sure they are. But yeah, really fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Ghosts was just phenomenal. It was an amazing single. It was completely different to everything else. Everyone else at this period, this is going to be 81, I would say, and everyone else was upbeat. We had Soft Cell, we had all these sort of Duran Duran and all these sort of upbeat, and then Japan came out. No, we're not doing that. This is a song, you know, of reflection, a song of reflection, of mood, of atmosphere, Ghosts, and it's my second favourite Japan song. So my favourite Japan song has to come from my favourite Japan album, right? And it does. And it is the last track on side 1. It's called My New Career. If anyone said to me, pick a song which defines Japan's sound and uniqueness, My New Career. Richard's keyboards are the standout in this track. They're phenomenal. They blow me away every time I hear it. Every time I hear it, I'm back in 1980, 81, listening to this album. It's just something about it. There's just something nostalgic about it. There's just something real about it, and just something of that moment, of that time about it. David's vocals are incredible on the track as well, as he sort of winds his way through the track. And it's just phenomenal. It's very minimalistic, but very rich and very full, and every instrument is meant to be there, if you know what I mean. It's just in the right place at the right time. And there we go. That is my favourite Japan track. So my top 10 favourite Japan songs are 10, Night Porter; 9, Methods of Dance; 8, Life in Tokyo; 7, In Vogue; 6, Experience of Swimming; 5, Gentleman Takes Polaroids and Swing; 4, Alien; 3, The Art of Parties; 2, Ghosts; and number 1, My New Career. That's my top 10, and it will change over time. It will change. I will listen to, because I listen to Japan just as much now as I did in the 80s. I listen to all my other music. I mean, you know, I like Bowie. I love Gary Newman. I love Pink Floyd. I enjoy Ultravox. I like Porcupine Tree. I like the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. I like the Beatles. I like Nick Drake. I like, you know what I like. I like a bit of everything, and I still do that. I just venture around, but I always come back to Japan. Massive shout out to my lad. See you soon, guys.